When it comes to community commerce and what we called the check-in economy, the key is really based on the fact that a lot of people now are dependent on extra forms of income. I'm that person. I like to know what makes people tick. I learn people's names, or at least I try to.
Can you usually tell within 10 minutes where a founder is going to end up?
Within 10 minutes of talking to somebody, you can usually gather in 1 to 5 years in terms of their startup.
This season, we're doing something different. I'm not going to be interviewing founders. I'm interviewing the people who built the room the founders walk into. Because there's something that I've learned the hard way running Tech Rebel for the last 8 years. The people you stand next to matter more than the deck you bring into the meeting. Austin is the second largest startup ecosystem in this country. And right at the center of this is one building, Capital Factory. 2,600 members, the most active investors in Texas since 2010. And the man sitting across from me has watched almost every single one of them walk in. He's not a founder, but he's built and started 2 companies. He's not a VC, but he sees the deal flow before most VCs do. He produces Capital Factory's own podcast. He came out of Apple, and his job title is something most founders should pay attention to. Community sales, not community manager. Community sales, because the line between those two is the most expensive lesson most founders ever learn. Aaron, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. That was a great intro.
So you spend a significant time at Apple as a content producer and instructional designer.
Yep.
People hear Apple and assume you were doing product work. What were you actually doing, and what did Apple teach you about how people learn?
Yeah. So I had a pretty long 10 years at Apple with a lot of different roles. Started as a software trainer. So I was teaching people consumer level software, also professional level software across Southern California, as well as internal, so training employees. Like, how do you use Final Cut Pro? How do you use these things? And then in transitioning to the instructional design, the back end of that, it's all in education, adult behavior, and learning. So in order to effectively teach, you have to understand how people learn. And in order to do that, you have to listen to them and see how they learn. Because it's different for a lot of folks, which is a big bridge into community building, because you're able to approach anybody and talk to anybody about anything, whether you're the founder of a company doing $2 billion a year, or a guy with an idea and you're vibe coding your first game to the janitor. Like, you just have to be able to engage with everybody. And that helped after Apple. But before I left Apple, I ended my time there in content production and instructional design, working at Apple Services. So my department was Apple Services and Enterprise. And Apple Services is anything but hardware and software. So Apple Care, iCloud, these are things that are not what you immediately associate with Apple. They're not tangible things. So selling that is complex. So we built content, interactive content, podcasts, videos, things like that for our enterprise sales team. So if you're going to sell 10,000 iPads to Starbucks, that's fantastic. We need to sell them 10,000 Apple Care subscriptions to help cover those, or develop a unique plan for them. So we would help do that training content. So that was a big part of just learning to engage people on an individual level, is how you learn to build community. Because once people believe that you can engage with them specific to them, you become a friend, you become a reliable source, you become trusted. And that is how you build a community.
Interesting. And then after your experience at Apple, you went ahead and co-founded 2 companies.
Yes.
So you have Artorias Auctions and then Akiaki, specifically built around what you call the check-in economy and the community commerce.
Yeah.
That's a thesis statement. Walk me through what you actually mean by that and why community became the substrate of your work.
Yeah. Well, Arteries was a little bit less specific in doing that. That was a platform in which artists could sell their artwork. And we had a pretty unique auction format. And it was for them to engage their community, was people could go on and support the artist. So it was for them to build their own community. Never really got around to building the community there. But when it comes to community commerce and what we called the check-in economy at Akiyaki, it's really based on the fact that a lot of people now are dependent on extra forms of income. And not necessarily passive income, but I would say engagement on the side income. And communities can support each other. So if you're a DoorDash driver or a Grubhub driver, you are supporting your community in a sense. Somebody needs something delivered to you. Somebody else in your community is willing to do that. And the more you empower those people to have the best experience and the most enriching experience, the better the community will be. So this idea of community commerce is there are people in your network who have what you want and need, and you have what other people in your network want and need as well. So finding that is where there's a really important business relationship that can happen. And not a lot of apps, especially in delivery, I felt were capturing that because they were more trying to make money from the businesses that they were doing delivery for, and weren't necessarily treating their drivers the way we thought was fair, and thought customers were getting ripped off in the middle. So it was, how do we ensure that everybody who's involved in this is seeing success? So that's where community commerce came in. It's a little bit redundant as well, because the com in commerce is Latin for group, which is where community comes from. So it's a little bit redundant. And we get that. I'm fine with it. It's what happens.
Interesting. So in terms of when you joined Capital Factory,
yeah,
those ventures, walk me through your first 90 days at Capital Factory. What was the first thing you noticed about how this place actually works that an outsider walking in for a tour would never see?
Yeah. Well, I should preface that I started at Capital Factory as a member with Akiyaki. I joined here because I had been working at home, doing the startup thing for 3.5, 4 years, and a pandemic in the middle there. And we needed mentorship on growing the platform and raising money. And I was also just going crazy at home by myself. My co-founders were remote in California. So coming here was really about mentorship and finding a community of people dealing with similar things. And that's a Google search away, entrepreneurship groups in Austin. Yes, you'll find a lot of meetups. Almost all of them are hosted here. But you'll certainly find Capital Factory and Station Austin. So I walked in as a founder looking at membership options, was welcomed by the then manager and the venture team as well. Met with the venture team pretty quickly, and it was good conversations. Joined and was here taking advantage of mentors, making friends in the office space, getting great feedback, getting test users, things like that. And it worked out well. When I ended up backing away from that role and more or less taking an inactive seat in the company, I was already here, and the Capital Factory had contracted me to produce their podcast, the Austinpreneur podcast, free plug. So I was already working with them. So I had seen both sides of Capital Factory, what it was like to work here and what it was like to be a member here. And being exposed to both was hugely beneficial and valuable, because then I could speak to the truths that I saw to anybody who walked in. So yeah, that's what the first 9 days was like, was as a member, getting to feel what the value proposition is to being here. And then it just evolved into employment.
Wow. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Direction that your life took here.
Mm-hmm.
So, did they engage you to join them, or did you see that you could be helpful and then sort of, suggested?
With the podcast or the community side?
Community side.
It was both. It was totally both that led me to the community side. I was here a lot. So we were trying to record an episode a week, and everybody just got to know me. I'm that person. I like to know what makes people tick. I learn people's names, or at least I tried to. And that led to working with the community sales manager at the time, and they were in desperate need of part-time help, just a contractor for a few months through South by Southwest. And I was available. We were bootstrapping. I was running deliveries on this platform on a key and Favor and stuff, all to, have cash. Because I left Apple and started my first company 3 months before COVID. And then COVID happened and crippled that company because nobody was buying art in a massive recession and a global pandemic. And my wife got laid off. So dug a big hole trying to survive, and built a startup in the middle of that whole thing. So I was doing anything I could for a job, like anything to keep the company going, to keep it working. And they offered me that position. And a big part of that was going to the events here, because I would go to events here, networking, pitch events, hackathons, all these things, founder therapy, and then I would show people around, because it'd be like, hey, I'm a member here. Have you been here before? Is it their first time here? And they're like, oh, never been here before. And then they would end up contacting the sales manager and be like, how do I become a member here? This guy, Aaron, walked me around and showed me the whole place. How do I sign up? And then they would sign up, and eventually they're like, hey, we'll pay you. You should join us. And then she was gone about 5 months later. And that's when that contract became employment. And then eventually they considered me for the management position, which was kind of funny because they knew I could sell and be sociable and representative, but they didn't understand that I had a lot of software depth in Excel and other softwares. So they never really, I don't want to say took me seriously for the role or thought I had any interest in it, but they asked me to do some audits and some reports, and I just crushed that. I just did a really good job on those reports, and they realized we don't actually have to look for somebody for this. Aaron is totally capable of putting that on his plate also.
So when you eventually became the manager at Capital Factory, what did you see that you had not observed before as a member, or as Corrigan?
Yeah, I think most people do when they find themselves in a leadership position somewhere after not being in the leadership position at the same place, you realize that there's a whole bunch of things that are going on that were not in your purview before. And that's to be expected. You're kind of, it's like playing a video game. You're going to the next level. There's going to be new things that you had no idea were going to be in this game. And they are. And then it's really on you to figure out where you fit into that and see if there's a value add you have somewhere else in the organization. I didn't work as closely with the venture team at any point. But as you had said in your intro, before you talk to the venture team, you're probably going to talk to me. Mm. You're going to talk to somebody at the front door. And if the person at the front door doesn't like you, you probably won't get inside, So it's it's been really fun to watch it grow and watch it change and watch it develop, especially with the station shift that happened this year, where there's Capital Factory, which is the venture side and for profit, and then there's also Station, which is the nonprofit side, and that's where we are physically. The location here is Station Austin now, and there's a Station DC, and there's a Station Northwest Arkansas. And they're innovation hubs designed to give founders access to their next client, their next investor, their next customer, their next partner, their next co-founder, whatever it might be. And as a nonprofit, there's a lot of ways you can maximize that and not have to worry. There's grants and stuff like that.
Right. One of the things that you mentioned earlier, recently, was about the team that you wish you had utilized better when you were a member. And I'm wondering, like, what other things that you kind of realized when you became an actual, manager at Capital Factory, which you wish you could have told yourself in those days?
It's a very good question. Well, I think an initial thing that I did here was got to know all of our staff really, really well to establish their needs so that I could be a better team player for them. And when you're filled enough of your RAM with that memory, you have to move other things out. And I think that there was a members focus that shifted away during that time where, and this would have been right when I became manager, and that had to come back. And the reason it had to come back is that a lot of the work I do with other teams is finding the middle ground to the benefit of the founders here, because that is the focus, is how is this benefiting the founder in this room? And if we're focused on a team level about proper execution or adhering to a specific operational standard that we have, how can we be flexible? So I would have probably told myself not to try and align with every needs of the team immediately and as hard as I could. Like, it really helps to be best friends with this manager on this other team, but you can't always be best friends with that manager if it's going to impact the overall thesis, right, which is focus on the founder, empower the founder, and eventually, hopefully, they become part of Capital Factory's portfolio, and we see them become a unicorn, and then everybody wins, because if then we get more money, then we hire more people. So I probably would say that it's okay to ask for forgiveness instead of permission with your team, especially.
Wow. That is a good segue for the next point that I wanted to bring up. So you've obviously seen thousands of founders walk through this building.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned just now where the thesis lies for your approach you're taking, which is very, very long term. Can you usually tell within 10 minutes where a founder is going to end up when you meet them?
How specific do I get with this answer, Abeer?
As specific as you want to be.
I'll say yes. I'll say yes. That within 10 minutes of talking to somebody, you can usually gather 1 to 5 years in terms of their startup. There are huge caveats to that. We're not psychic. I'm not psychic. I don't know the future. But oftentimes you can tell by how saturated the industry is that they're working in, how unique their idea is. I think I even told you once I had a situation one day, probably about 3 to 4 months ago, and there's 3 different companies all came in. They didn't know each other. Preface that. All 3 of them said they were the first AI healthcare companion. And by the third one, I was like, have you heard of these companies? No. It's like, cool. Well, you're the first AI healthcare companion I've seen today. So that doesn't mean they're all going to fail or anything like that. It doesn't mean any one of the individual ones will fail. But seeing how their team works together. If they have a team, what does that look like? How are they engaging with anybody I'm introducing them to on this tour? What are they talking about? What are they asking about? They're all relevant to where they might be. And do they have a really clear understanding of the problem that they're working on? When we had the founder of Waze here, Yuri Levine from Israel one year for a talk, his book is called Fall in Love with the Problem, Not the Solution. And it's really true. A lot of builders, especially now, they're building solutions. And if they don't understand the problem, they're not going to know how to sell the solution at all. And so people that are really, really wonderful builders, and that's important, oftentimes are missing that side, that they're not actually seeing the problem they're solving accurately, or they're not understanding the people who have the problem. So like that, the culturally aware, or the AI healthcare companion, there's another founder working on that, and his was very culturally aware. And the founder had a parent who didn't speak English in the US healthcare system. And growing up, he had to translate the doctor to the patient as a child, and saw that there's words that doctors use that there is no other word for in Spanish or Italian. So that founder, who had a great technical team, that's the one I'm like, there's some long term, because there's passion. He's experienced it. He knows the problem, that there can be systemic failures in AI healthcare companionship and in healthcare in general because of language and culture barriers. And that's the one who's going to build the product people are probably going to end up using. So that's a big part of it. And then another part is experience. Yeah, I did the solo sort of founder thing. Arteries was really a solo project. I had a co-founder, but very limited on the work side. He was more the art guy and knew a lot of artists. Then a key co-founder, technical contractor, a couple others. And my third company now, 7 co-founders. Happy, love it. Like we know our strengths, we know our weaknesses, and we can build much faster and have a broader appeal real quick. Jason Calcanis, who's the host of the All In podcast and This Week in Startups, and is the founder of Launch, very similar incubator, accelerator, investor to us. He won't even invest in a company often if they don't have more than 3 co-founders, because one's going to quit, one's going to get fired, and one's going to be left. So it's like, just be, he will, if it's an exception for something awesome. But so I like to look for teams. That's really valuable a lot of the time. And a really big portion of the founders I meet, they're building a great business that they can run and be very comfortable and very happy forever. It doesn't mean they need to scale. It doesn't mean they need VC money. They don't need that. So there's a lot of founders I meet that are comparable to me in that they just need to get out of the house and make friends. And it's isolating being a founder. It's a completely different job. So being around people who are dealing with it and understand it, they understand the 20-hour days, they understand the check not coming in, they understand the unexpected expense, they understand the weird letter you got from the U.S. Patent Office, they understand the cease and desist that you might have got from somebody that's total bullshit. And so there's a lot of really good founders that I can see doing exactly what they're doing right now in 4 years. And there's nothing wrong with that, because it's still a great business. So there's a huge variety of founders that come in. And some of them, in 5 minutes, that they're going to love doing this for the rest of their life. That this is huge. This is going to be massive because it already is. Or this is going absolutely nowhere. And good luck.
I think, what's interesting that you mentioned it from a very different perspective, and it kind of ties in that you're building products for human beings after all, and disconnecting yourself from that piece is what causes most products to fail. Mm-hmm. Like, what is that pain that you're, trying to solve, and how are you married to it? Like, personally, you mentioned passion, you mentioned that founder had a history with this problem. I think it ties into the community aspect way more than you kind of discussed. And when for myself as well, like I was speaking to one of the advisors here, and in Capital Factory, and her suggestion to me was just go out there and start talking to people randomly. They don't even have to be your ICP, and just show them so that you can clarify your positioning. If you can explain this in 1 minute, then it works. If it's not, then it's, you need to restructure. So I feel that Capital Factory provides the 2,600 contacts and like people that you can actually reach out to, like that are exactly where you are, or somewhere higher up. You can learn, and that's something that most of their communities, with the level of openness that's there in Austin, do not provide. Speak to that a little bit. How you feel like that can help other founders?
Yeah, and it's what you pointed out already. It's that we're always here. Like there's a ton of meetups. I mentioned almost all of the entrepreneurship and startup focused ones they're here at Capital Factory, and we provide that space to those hosts for free because it's a value add to our community to have them happening here. It is literally always moving. I could go on Slack at 1 a.m. and position a question to our community on the request for feedback channel, or the request for referral channel, or the job posting. Am I going to get a response? I don't know. I could be here at 1 a.m. We're 24 hours. Founders, some of us are night owls. So it's always here. And that is a really good feeling that nowhere else really provides. We have had founders who go through Y Combinator and Techstars, and those are great things for what they are, and launch. Almost all of them end up back here because it's permanent. When you're a Y Combinator company, it's like, okay, so you got some money and a mentor and made some friends who are going through the same cohort as you. Like it's a frat house, right? You've shared an experience with a group, and they are forever your network. Here, your network is always there for as long as you're a member. It's always here. So that's the big difference. Is it's gonna support you however you need in that moment. So I love that about it.
And to kind of build on that a little bit more, obviously Capital Factory from the outside looks like just a space, but inside there are rooms within rooms.
Yeah,
our conversations only certain founders get pulled into. Someone earned their way into those rooms. How do you know when a founder is ready for a room that's a level above the one they're in?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a good question. Fortunately, there aren't that many secret rooms here. And by that, I think that there are certainly different tiers in terms of access. The best way to kind of break those walls down for yourself or for anybody is to engage with as many people as you can, especially folks that love what you do, and especially folks that love what you do and you can do it for them. It's really important that if somebody wants to work with you and there's alignment there, to really deliver on it. Whatever you say you're going to do it as soon as you possibly can. That makes you reliable, and if you're reliable, there's trust. So many things, especially in being a startup founder, are reliant on your network, which I think people know subconsciously, but don't acknowledge all the way. But it's really, really true. And if you can deliver for this person to this person and then that person, and they refer and they refer and they refer, eventually the CEO of Capital Factory is texting me and saying, I need help with this thing. And I help. And then I become a value add to him personally, or the president of Capital Factory or the director, whatever it might be. Even I helped the director of Capital Factory, one of the founders, with a microphone issue he was having before giving a class. And it's those little things, whatever it can be. I think it's, what's his name? Gary Vee. Gary Vee is huge on that. If there's one thing about Gary Vee that I really take away, is getting to know people and being of personal benefit in some way. He talks about how if he wants to close a business deal, and he's talking to somebody, he'll look at their Facebook and their Instagram and sees, oh, they are massive LA Dodgers fans. Great. As a thank you for taking a meeting, send him some Dodger tickets, or send him a cool Dodger hat, or send him an autographed baseball card by Shohei Ohtani. Like that $200 that you might spend on an autographed Shohei card will light them up and make them super happy, and they will think of you when they look at that card. And that $200 card could lead you to a $1 million contract in 5 years, and it was because they thought of you. So it's really important to be reliable and trustworthy, and to deliver for people who like what you're working on. All of that doesn't matter if you are afraid to talk to people. So definitely do whatever you can to talk to people that you don't know at all. If you're going to get a drink at the water fountain and somebody else is next, say hi. Smile at them. That's fine. So jump at opportunities to meet anybody you can, because you never know where it's going to lead. And then figure out if there's a way you can benefit each other, and then follow through.
So, and I want to be sort of get a deeper dive into it, because I know the founders listening would be very interested to hear. There's definitely a much more streamlined path to becoming a Capital Factory portfolio company.
Yeah.
Which is, I would say, one of the fastest paths to success.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's obviously other paths where, there's co-branded events that happen with the other accelerators and venture studios within Austin.
Yeah.
How did the founder position themselves to get on that spread?
Yeah. Love that question. Super important question. And it will save founders who listen to this a lot of time. And it will also save our venture team a lot of time. I can fortunately speak to it with the new company. My new company is in the portfolio.
Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah. Which is part of the All Access Fund. The All Access Fund is very unique because there's no cash involved. It's 1% equity stake that Capital Factory has. And as a result, we have access to the investor relations team. Their whole job is, if we're fundraising, connect you with the right investors and get you in front of them. They host events where VIPs will come in and they will put you in front of these VIPs if it's aligned with what that person does. Like if Danica Patrick, the race car driver, is coming in, great. We're putting her in front of Code 19, which is doing AI-driven Formula One cars. Because she might be an investor. She might be a partner. She might be a spokesperson. Like, there's a ton of reasons to do that, and that's what being in the portfolio's value add is. The All Access Fund specifically. Then there's also the Texas Fund, which is regular old VC. most important thing about streamlining a path towards that could be approaching the All Access Fund, but also being aware of what their current thesis is and their current goals. Right now, the venture arm of Capital Factory is very, very focused on hard tech, on robotics, on humanoids, on defense technologies. So be aware of that. If you're going in and you have, a really cool, let's say, game that you've developed, and you've got 100,000 users now, and you want to scale up the game and turn into a full-on game studio and make more games, but you don't have the bandwidth because you're a solo founder, you might not be the right fit for us. You may not be. But there's always possibility. And I should add to that statement that there's always possibility if you have revenue. That's huge. It sounds bad to say it this way, but ideas are cheap. Everybody has ideas. The homeless guy outside arguing with a stop sign has ideas. And maybe even had your idea at some point of an AI that can translate with your doctor. I could see that. You have to be able to execute, and you have to have shown that you have executed. So, revenue is king when you walk into a VC of any kind. Because that's what they're in the business of. They're in the business of making money. They're not in the business of making your dream as a founder come true. They're here to make money, and the best way to show someone you can make money is by making money. If you've built something and putting it in the market is your bottleneck. Like, that's the thing, is you made this amazing thing, and if only you had a $2 million marketing budget to make it blow up, everybody would see it and love it, then I'll make tons of money. You need to figure out how to make that $2 million marketing budget in some other way. Because a VC is not going to take that chance most of the time.
Really?
So if you're approaching a VC at all with the intent of getting money from them, first of all, be making money already, if possible. That's huge. And you'll learn a ton getting to that point. That's hugely valuable. You will be a better founder for doing that. Or if you're doing something that requires massive investment, like robotics or aerospace or building data centers on satellites, have an incredible technology team that is patenting everything you are doing. Because those patents can have value that revenue would have supplemented for in the other instances.
Correct.
And so that can be huge. And then also be self-aware. Be self-aware. I mentioned before that there's a lot of folks that come into a VC that are running a great business, doing $1 million, $2 million a year in ARR, living very comfortably for the 5 to 10 people on staff maybe. And then they'll come in and say, I want to scale and grow and do much. But there's just so much competition. There's so many other people running great businesses just like you are, that the money to scale isn't going to guarantee the scale. So be very aware of your competition. And if you really do have something there that is a disruptor or a distinguisher before you go into a VC. And on a personal side of going into a VC, there's a mental thing that founders do where they think raising VC money is getting money for their company. Reframe that in your mind to, I am selling my company. I'm giving up control. I'm giving up a lot when you get into a VC relationship. You're giving yourself a boss. You owe somebody now. There's a lot more stress that comes with that.
Right.
So If you reframe it to you're giving up some of your baby for an extra purpose, you will change your approach to whether or not you should go for VC right now. It's totally okay to get money from founders and friends and family and stuff. Like, there's other ways to get money. Maybe you can take a loan. Like, you can get a loan for the $250K you want if you can back it up. If you're going to make that this year and you're going to use it to scale, then take the loan. Don't give up the equity. And then it's also a matter of time. Like, I love positioning this question. Let's say you're a founder and you own 50% of a company, and the company's worth whatever. You get an acquisition offer for $10 million. Cool, that's $5 million for you right now.
Sure.
If you go for VC and other funding so that you can scale it to $100 million a year, by the time you do that, your equity is probably going to be diluted down to 5%. And that's $5 million, except you waited for 5 years and had all this stress. So is it worth it? So be aware of that. Like, you don't always have to raise money.
Right. I think there's definitely a lot of trade-offs for whatever direction you take. And I think you kind of put it really well in terms of the details. And I think, tapping into the advisor network can help you answer some of those questions.
Totally.
You mentioned in some of our earlier conversations about how these advisors also communicate with the venture team.
Yeah.
Startups.
Yep.
And I think I'm trying to recall the name, I'm not really catching it, but Luis also mentioned the president of Capital Factory.
Yeah.
He has mentorship hours as well.
Yep.
That you can take on. To me, like hacks.
Yeah.
But then in addition to that, it also gives you, you don't have to go VC route. You can go the angel route as well. Sort of partner up with somebody who can give you distribution.
Yeah.
Which is a lot more than, which is indirectly what you want with the VC money. So
yeah.
That route. So talk to me about like some of these hacks that you kind of played through when you're building your new startup, which is already part of an accelerator now.
Yeah.
So what changed? What exactly did you realize that made you change your approach
to going for the portfolio?
Yeah, with the hacks that you sort of saw through being on this side of
yes. Well, like, as you just mentioned, mentors are huge. They're volunteers. A lot of them are volunteers because they're investors in Capital Factory and Capital Factory's funds. So it's to their benefit to meet as many founders as they can to see what's growing on and what's changing and what's evolving, and having a really good first look at a company. A lot of the venture team gets introductions from our mentors who say, like, have you met Abeer? Like, and seen what he is doing? Great success, great traction, unique disruptor, great team, best CTO he's ever met. Like, and you should talk to him. So that's huge. Definitely take advantage. And, book mentor hours. If you were here, book them in advance. Book them well out. Even if you don't have a specific question now, schedule the time anyway and prioritize it, and write down questions as you go. And if you find that you don't have any questions at all, you gotta get a therapist also. Because if you think you know everything, there's an issue. Like, you gotta always, there's always I always have questions. So definitely be okay with that. So that's one hack for sure. And then don't be afraid of opportunities that happen within the community. And what I mean by that is, like, I've had founders come in, solo founders running 2 different businesses, and they find that even though they're not doing the same thing, they've had similar ideas for something they could do. And they became a new company and shared equity and found a great other few team members and issued them equity as well. It helps put people's skin in it. Given that investors do have concerns about your cap table down the line and what the spread is on your investors, there's no reason to be super stingy with equity. Like there's not a big difference in your lifestyle if you're a billionaire or if you have $800 million, like, or if you have $500 million or if you have $50 million. Yeah, you don't have a yacht, but you're still not worried about things. So like, don't chase that unicorn. Like that's a result. Like that's a result of the hard work. That's not the goal. The goal should be solving the problem that you're passionate about. That's the goal. And then if you achieve that, you'll get the results. And it's a really good hack to express that passion way hard. Like if you walk into a VC and you are like, I absolutely hate lupus, and it's an incredibly hard disease to cure, but I have built out this, I'm a chemist, and in academia, I've built out what I believe is the treatment for this, and we've been testing it, and I have all the patents on it, but I don't want to sell it to Blue Cross Blue Shield, or I do, whatever it is. You share that, like that makes people excited. That makes people excited. And then like we mentioned the Gary Vee thing before, the other hack is even if you don't ask them about like personal things they like, favorite bands, favorite movies, favorite books, favorite sports teams, pay attention for hints and clues to those things, and don't be afraid to engage them on it and learn about it. My co-founder of our new company, Plotzy, Michael Gorton, he's an amazing dude, and we just became friends at an event a couple years ago because I was doing the podcast and he was recording an audiobook for one of the titles he wrote and talking sci-fi. We geeked out about space and his friends that were Apollo astronauts, and so really like geeking out about our favorite sci-fi novels and dreams we have about like the future. That is a hugely important thing that people overlook. That you're a human, I'm a human, and we can talk to each other like humans, and that we both have needs. So if you go to somebody you need something from that approach, you're probably not going to get anything, because that they have needs too, and you got to figure out what those are.
Yeah, I think this has been a common thread throughout this conversation about thinking through the product and everything else around you as human beings, like human investors. You know, I think that's really point well made. I'm going to flip this script a little bit. I'm going to ask you to look at me. You know, we've been at this for 8 years now. We built around 250 people company. Now we're operating under multiple products that we've launched: TechRevo, FlameShield, Roberto, SensusFlow. From your seat, watching builders like us, what's the most common mistake the agencies to product founders make when they're trying to plug into a community like Capital Factory? Where do we get it wrong typically?
Yeah, that's another great question. And first,
Don't soften and blow.
No, I won't. It won't help you if I did. You know, you fail upwards. There's no losing, there's learning. There's a lot of these slogans I can throw. Well, first, I mean, growing a company to 250 people and running it for 8 years, you're already in the 98th percentile of founders that succeeded. Like, you're in the top 2%. Most startups are done after 2 to 5 years, whether they obtain traction or not. So, and the 250 people, if we were like looking at a pyramid, Like, you're spreading it out.
Mhm.
It's very important as a founder to know the things you can't do and to get people who can to work with you on it. Not necessarily under, but with, to achieve the same goal. If I recall correctly, Tech Revolt helps with development of software for whatever it might be, right?
So we started to transition to a product company now.
Product.
So like, developing our own products and selling. What's the mistake that you see agencies making that transition?
Sure.
And trying to plug into the community at the same time?
It's a lack of familiarity and exploring the community as much as they can. In order to understand if they're looking at the right customer and solving the right problem for them. I've had dozens of development companies come here to join the community to farm customers, clients that, will help you build your app, will help you build your software, will help you manufacture your parts. The part manufacturers usually have more success because that's harder to find. But the people that are coming here are usually builders as well.
Mm-hmm.
They're way more like you than you think. And that might be a mistake. So a lot of folks, especially who are developing ideation to MVP, those types of developers, they don't last here because they're builders here. They already have their MVP.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. And then if your end goal is that's going to make it hard as well. If you come across as trying to close a deal or lock in a contract or get money, that probably won't help. Be willing to sacrifice. A lot of orgs come in and they're not willing to sacrifice. And you have to look out for yourself. Of course, first, don't drive yourself into the grave for other people. If you can't afford to eat, you have to charge them. But be okay with, if something's starting to line up, tell them like, hey, I want to do this for you. I have about 40 hours of flexibility this month. Can we line up and maybe put something together for you? And then if it's like looking good, then we'll talk about working together. That's hugely valuable. I think a couple of good examples of this are Baker Bots, the legal firm. So they give our members free consultations. They won't do work for you, but they provide free consultations. And they are so honest if you need work or if this is something you can work around. So doing that is really helpful for the community. Is intend on being a resource for people and not a potential provider of a service. Like, be a resource.
Be a value.
Yeah.
So in this final session, because I know
yeah,
a little bit late as well.
Yeah.
What I want to do is ask you 5 questions.
Sure.
Give you 60 seconds to answer on that question. The first thing that comes to your head. So we want to be quick on this. So
love it. Love the pressure test.
Okay, so the first question is the most expensive lesson community building has taught you.
The most expensive lesson community building has taught me is that communities are individuals. And if you do not focus on the individuals, your community will not grow. Period.
The Austin founders you've watched come up that more people should know.
Austin founders that more people should know about. Humano Tequila, huge fan of them. They do really, really clean tequila out of Jalisco. Huge amount of experience, and they're just running a great company with a wonderful purpose. Their farmers are their celebrities. I cannot stand when The Rock tries to sell me tequila. There's no trust there. So I really, really like them. I think that they're super cool. And the benchmark for a new spirit entering a market is 10,000 cases in 5 years. They did it in 1. But they're very cool. But you were expecting a tech company.
It's good. One thing about Capital Factory you wish more founders knew when they walked in.
That it's worth it. that it is worth it. I mean, some people, they see the price tag, which our base membership to be in person is $500 a month, where you can go to WeWork and spend $300 a month. And it's a lot, but you could make $500 somehow. Think about Airbnb. Like when they couldn't raise any more money, they took the money they raised and created Obama O's cereal and Captain McCain's cereal, bought a bunch of boxes of that and sold it. Like, get creative. If you can find $500 somehow, you really can.
Interesting. A piece of advice you got early that you now think is wrong.
That I now think is wrong.
So
I don't think this is a scapegoat. Yeah, this is a good stumper. I'm also very comfortable sitting in silence, so it doesn't bother me when people think about answering questions.
It's like the person talking.
Exactly. That you have to be willing to sacrifice everything. I've heard the phrase, like, the founder has to be willing to eat glass for their vision. Yeah, that's not a good idea to eat glass, first of all. And if you go bankrupt, if you lose your house, if you lose your family, it's not worth it. Be comfortable first. Like, you might have this thing in your head that you're so passionate about, but if you can't afford to eat or take care of your loved ones, it's not the right time. It's okay. You can wait a while before you chase this.
Well,
yeah.
Well, so the last one, a founder is listening right now. They're 3 years in. They're at 2 million ARR, and they're stuck. What's your advice for them?
Well, kind of like what we talked about before. What's the bottleneck? Understand your bottleneck. Are your sales not increasing because at the rate your marketing is increasing? If you raise your marketing budget, does your sales not increase? If you hire a new salesperson, does your sales not increase?
Without the variables, one move that you can recommend.
Oh, like one move? Ask yourself if this is a great business I want to keep running, or if I need more money. Or am I going to scale it? Yeah. Is this okay?
Well, thank you, Aaron. This was very fun.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And I'm sure the audience learned a lot. And, well, looking forward to having you again next time.
Totally a pleasure.
Thank you.
It's really good to talk, Abeer.